Have you ever wondered how to build a drone with wings, also known as a quad plane? In the previous episode, I pitched an autonomous long-range UAV to a bunch of investors with the promise of saving lives. And in this one, I'm gonna show you how I built it in my living room. And now that we have all the components we need, we actually need an airframe to put them in. And since I'm not an aerospace engineer myself, I will leave that to someone who knows what they're actually doing. I'm not sponsored by Flightery, but if you want to build your own 3D printed UAV, you can go to flightery.com and purchase the model you intend to use. This will give you the 3D models for the individual parts, the component list, and a manual on how to assemble the airframe. Flightery models fly really well, can easily be printed on desktop FDM printers, and are quite intuitive to assemble. Now, once I purchased the 3D model, I had to actually 3D print it. So that's when I went to my friends at 3D Momcy. It seemed easy to me at first, but it really wasn't. It took them about 90 to 100 hours of tuning the print settings and printing the whole airframe. Alternatively, you can purchase your own 3D printer, like a Bamboo P1S, for less than $600, but if this is your first time doing so, I really suggest you use someone's expertise in 3D printing. So I cannot be more thankful to the guys at 3D Momcy for helping me start this and teaching me how to do it. On the topic of 3D printing, since drones are generally flying outdoors, we need tough outdoors materials like ASA, carbon fiber one, but since it's very hard to print and you will likely crash your drone anyways, you're much better off using a material like this one. This is lightweight PLA. It's an ultralight type of PLA, weighing only 0.6 grams per cubic centimeter, which is about 60% of the typical filament weight. The main problem with lightweight PLA is that it melts when exposed to the sun and summer heat, which is not ideal for any aircraft. It also absorbs water, does not have UV resistance, and is not very impact resistant. There is an engineering grade filament that ticks all the right boxes, which we'll get into in the following episodes. Alright, so today is a very big day, because take a look at this. Most of the plane is already 3D printed and it's absolutely insane, and I'm super excited to start to assemble every piece of it. But before I do that, there are some minor imperfections that I would need to polish. This is the reality of printing with lightweight PLA. Most of it falls with just a little scrub, but there are some other parts that need polishing. Alright, so I polished most of the parts and the next order of business is gluing them together. I'm using simple CA glue and this is a failed part, so you can see that I've glued it here in the middle, and if you try to break it, the part is gonna break but the glue wouldn't budge. These are the carbon fiber rods. We are gonna need to cut those carbon fiber rods into their proper shape, but this is just a fitment test. This is the central part of the fuselage, and this is what's gonna hold the wings together. And this is pretty much unbendable and super lightweight. So it's gonna be perfect. Before we start gluing things together, it's always a good idea to make sure that those pieces fit perfectly. I'm just gonna sand it a little bit before applying the glue. I gotta be honest, I'm quite nervous for this. Alright, Glue is applied. Here goes nothing. Right, focus. Easy. Right, my fingers are now stuck to the part, which is not ideal. Alright, well that actually worked. Have a look at this. It's never gonna be perfect, but it's good enough. Alright, so next up we have these inserts that go into the wing. Now that that's done, it's time to move to the back. This is the tail, and then there's this piece that plugs into the tail, and then the carbon tube plugs into it. This is the insert. This needs to go into the plastic on the other side. So before I do any of that, I would need to sort out the carbon tubes. Before I cut anything, I want to see how hard it is to actually cut carbon fiber. Okay, I don't think that's gonna cut it. Pun intended. So, The next thing we need to do was to sort out the rear end of the fuselage. The tube would go inside, and then we would drill the hole here, and that's how we know. Before we do even that, we need to cut the tube into the proper length. And to do that, we need to bring out the big guns. We need a measuring tape. So let's get to measuring. This tube that connects the fuselage to the tail of the plane, it needs to be exactly 435 millimeters. And since I do not have paper tape, I'm just gonna use a band-aid. It should do the trick. Right. So of course we are going to double check with a proper tool like this one. Alright, well, this little guy is gonna need to cool down, so... It's time to bring out the big guns. Now that's more like it. Oh yeah! Now we can actually fit an M3 screw in this. The problem is that we don't have a long enough M3 screw. And look what I found. We're gonna sacrifice this little buddy, but we found one. Alright, so guess what? This actually worked. Alright, so now that I double checked that everything will fit together, it's time to hot glue this inside of this. Alright, this little buddy is ready, so let's do it. I made a huge mistake. And then here it is. I can see the hole, which means we can screw it. Alright, status update. We have the fuselage and we're working on the tail of the plane. In order to finish it, I still need some parts like wires, but we're gonna do the best we can to assemble what we have.